So we can take a look here, but yeah, see, 2016. Back in 2016, I think is when I kind of got involved in this. Kind of an interesting little rabbit hole jump down. But this whole thing was full. I used to have everything over here. That was all taken up. I consolidated everything over to here, and it's basically sat here just collecting sawdust for probably 4 years. Is that safe to say? 5 years? Yeah. And it's kind of been like, I need a space back for my workshop for tools and stuff. But there's a whole bunch. This is pretty involved in going through all this stuff and decommissioning it, and you know, I guess there's probably some good insights to be gained from whatever this was. So that's what we're gonna do. And the thought came in that I should videotape this for God knows why reason, but that's what we're gonna do. This is gonna be like a little project. Probably take a week to get through all this. I think what we're gonna do is just open these up. I'll do some explaining, and then we'll figure out how we're gonna do things. So let's see what's in here. Yeah, so this is interesting in here. Here's a cap that has some stuff in it. I think I know what that is. And I'm gonna get some gloves on. Hang on. Alright, so these were our pieces of, I guess regular, I think it's 14 gauge copper house wire, bare, just a bare copper wire, made into a spiral, and they were put in here on a piece of screen just so they didn't set. In the bottom you pour a solution of Drano and boiling water, and you close this up and let it set, and what happened is it turned the copper this black color, and they called it nano coated, and it supposedly had special qualities. They came up with some esoteric diagram or whatever. I have a different philosophy of that stuff, which I'll share in another one. Yeah, so this was like the chamber kind of to make these nano coated pieces, and there's different sizes. Whoop, 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 whoop. Whoa, now take a look at this one. Now this was interesting. They called this it's a Pepsi bottle reactor. So this was a Pepsi bottle, and we made these little copper pieces and inserted them and hot glued them to be airtight, and put the cap back on. And let's take a look at all the crazy crap in there. So this is sat for like 7 years. A lot of crystalline stuff, which I'm thinking is probably like sodium hydroxide precipitate. So here's the theory on this one, that this special solution that was in there with a special ingredient, which I'll get to in a minute, would cause a, let me get it right, it's part of nuclear chemistry. It's a nuclear chemical reaction that would allow you to get voltages, different voltages between different electrodes based on the type of coating, whether it was that nano coating that we use that container for, that coating chamber, or just plain copper. That was a theory. And what did I find out of all this? I can look back at my notes, but it was not stellarly significant, impressive enough to warrant anything further with this. So, alright, so I pulled this out of the garbage because it wants to have a little more explanation. Now, the method that they showed, okay, so let's back up a bit. When I first got involved with this, there was a claim, I guess his name's Kesh, I call him Quiche because it looks like it's spelled like quiche. A lot of claims of some pretty significant insights into non-traditional physics, chemistry, gravity, the whole works, right? So just because it's an interesting rabbit hole, it sounded like, had a gut feeling like some of it might be interesting to try out, so we just needed to try it and see if, what the claims were right. And then there's another section of one of the patents. I mean, I don't even know if it was in one of the patents, but it was a reference to something else. And they had actually shown nano-coated wires, and they had a voltmeter, and the outer coating was conductive, and it was conductive, let's say along the wire, but not through this cross section. So it was like an insulated in one direction, conductive in one direction. So you could have, this would be like a coax wire actually. So you'd have current going through the center conductor and current coming across the outside surface, but it's not a short. So it's actually like insulated in between. And they showed some pretty interesting a video of showing some measurements with a voltmeter. They showed some results from having some, I don't know, electron microscope or some scanning something or something, and it seemed pretty consistent from what I would expect from their claims. Like, it probably was. White precipitate would develop in solution, so it'd settle to the bottom. I'd use a turkey baster. I'd open this up, suck out that, put it in this container here to let it further settle out, and then would siphon off the liquid, put it back in here, the precipitate on the very bottom. So this was like, you know, a daily, weekly thing. You had to go through each of the things and do this, but you can kind of see that's like 7-year-old precipitate. And then after a while you go through and suck out what's left, because most of the water would be down, and then you'd put it in here, and now this has actually dried out. So this is dried nano zinc powder that was in solution, and it probably looks like most of that stuff inside is dried too, but we're going to open it up. Alright. Let's see. Well, it looks like 7 years. Whoa. Oh, you know what this was? This was a piece of zinc. Like, I think this is zinc here. And you can see all the white powder on it. This other one that's corroded off and laying inside was probably nano-coated in that sodium hydroxide solution chamber that was coated. So you had one zinc piece that was coated and one that was not, with a little electrical connection on the top in a solution of sea salt, and that's what's left of it all. Alright, so that's kind of gnarly. That's hard. It's like crusted. It's not just the powder. That's pretty interesting. And this one just decayed right off. Alright. This also has crusted coating on it. And inside, yeah, it's pretty hard. Alright, so I tried to break the crust off of that zinc bar, but that zinc bar is kind of like decomposed. That's kind of weird. But anyways, I pounded some of the stuff out of there, and it came to a really nice white clear powder, and we're putting it in here, and we're going to save this nano copper zinc. So we have a piece of copper wire which was coated, and we should have a zinc bar in there that was not coated, and that was supposed to give a different energetic configuration, so it would give you a different. Okay, so let's have a look. This was, oh, it's still got a little bit of solution in there. And what do we have? What do we have? Alright, so this is a non-coated coated zinc bar, and it kind of looks similar to the other zinc bar, but it is not as deteriorated, but it does have a lot of white stuff on it. This was a copper coil that was coated with hydrogen or sodium hydroxide, and it looks kind of green now, like copper does get to be. So look, it looks kind of clear. Alright, let's just see. Whoa, that's kind of funky. Think it's worth saving? I don't know. Out of all the stuff we've seen so far, that's kind of unusual. It almost looks like a piece of quartz or something. Alright, so this one says copper zinc, but I think this is the contaminated one. That definitely looks like iron pieces, but it's... Oh, this is kind of interesting. They're like big flakes. It's got like big chunk of like a quartz type of thing in there too. And then it looks like some... Alright. All the water has gone out of this. Let's see what's inside of it. Interesting. Wow. So this one is the uncoated, and this has a greenish, and this is a nano-coated copper wire, and that has the same color to it. What's inside here? Oh, interesting. Yeah, so whatever this is a very crystalline type of structure. Yeah, interesting. Oh, we're going to put it into here and store it. And this was solution, and it has since dried out. Interesting. For whatever reason, it makes me think of Martian soil, but very reddish brown with a little bit of crystalline structure. I think the crystalline structure is probably the NaOH that's crystallized again. Okay, this is a nano copper iron generator or chamber or whatever, GaNS generator. I don't know what they call it, but let's have a look. Oh, there's actually still a lot of water in there. Holy moly. Is that gnarly or what? So that's the nano-coated copper. This is the iron bar, and it's got like weird stuff growing off of it, right? But it's very fragile. And what's inside here is still in solution. That's crazy how this is still in solution. Everything else has... I'm not sure what to think of all this. Right here, they're kind of like all different, like thin layers of something. Okay, just a short recap. This is nano copper zinc. That's like the generator container, and this was... Yeah, I'm not even gonna touch it. This is nano copper zinc, and that was the particulates left. This was nano copper, and it had these crystalline things. This is nano copper iron. It had some pretty funky stuff, and I don't know where to do it. Okay, so this is like the plasma. There's 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're in a star pattern on the bottom with one on top. And suppose you put these different GaNS mixtures inside here and adjust the speed control, and these things are supposed to spin. They spin a little bit, but then they don't. So, so there's some interesting things. Like one time I got the bottom 3 to spin, and this one wouldn't spin, but the ball inside of it was spinning opposite. There's a ball inside. I'll open it up and show you. But there's never enough directions as to like which ones of these things go and which ones of these and which concentration and what goes in the outer one. So I don't know. So here's the star formation dynamic reactor kit. So I took it apart as 3 tiers, and then you'd put it inside here. Touch. Then you'd fill something in the outer sphere, and you put the top on. And I'm going to need 2 hands to close that up. And then you spin it, and it's supposed to, the interaction of the inner fluid with the outer fluid generate some type of energetics that wasn't very well explained, or if it was understood, it wasn't well explained as to what had to go in there and how you could predict or yeah, like you couldn't get repeatable reactions, you couldn't get predictable reactions out of it. So my view is that this is a toy model. I'll use those words exactly. That's what came in. A toy model of a type of reactor, if you will. I think they call them plasma reactors, made out of metal. So I'm just going to give it a big blessing. I enjoyed very much that rabbit hole that I went down for what it was worth. Yeah, it expanded my perceptions of reality, the world, how to look at things. I think it was good. It was a good rabbit hole. I think I got out of it.